think so often people are coming to me to get clear and confident in their leadership vision and their style and who do I want to be as a leader? Because oftentimes they are new to the role or new to the organization. I think you mentioned like first time C suite people, people who are taking over a family or legacy business. And they're saying, like, do I have what it takes?
Welcome to Career Coaching Secrets, the podcast where we talk with successful career coaches on how they built their success and the hard lessons they learned along the way. My name is Davis Nguyen, and I'm the founder of Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, and even $100,000 weeks. Before Purple Circle, I've grown several 7- and 8-figure career coaching businesses myself, and have been a consultant at 2 career coaching businesses that are doing over $100 million each. Whether you're an established coach or building your practice for the first time, you'll discover the secrets to elevating your coaching business.
Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Career Coaching Secrets podcast. I'm your host Rexhen, and today's guest is Lauren Sikes, an executive coach, leadership facilitator, and founder of Truth Collective, where she helps visionary leaders bring their values and vision to life by leading from their true self, with clients ranging from first-time C-suite executives to family business successors and high-growth startup leaders, and specializes in guiding people through pivotal transitions, redefining leadership, reshaping culture, and aligning impact with authenticity. And it's a pleasure for me to have her on the podcast today. Welcome to the show, Lauren.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming, Lauren. I wanted to ask you, when it comes to you starting your coaching business and becoming a coach, it's been about 7 years or so that you've started Truth Collective. First of all, what inspired you to become a coach and then start Truth Collective?
Yeah, so interestingly enough, I have a background in social work. That's what I went to college for, and then became a teacher for 13 years. I'm also the oldest of 4. So I've always been kind of in a coach role very naturally, and I've always been someone that people came to for perspective, whether it is paid clients or friends, family. I've just sort of played that role always. But when I transitioned out of education, I started a company thinking it was going to be just with schools. And really, coaching found me. I was facilitating leadership and company workshops. And I had some people come to me and say, I want to learn from you. Will you coach me? And that is literally the kind of seed that was planted there and grew into an actual coaching business. I still facilitate workshops. I still work with teams on podcasts, do all sorts of things, but there is still very much an element of what people consider traditional coaching and working one-on-one with clients. So found me just through someone asking. It wasn't in my service realm. And I decided to add it in because what I love about the coaching clients that I get to work with is they love to learn. And I think anybody that's coming to a coaching process, that is kind of a pivotal attribute or characteristic. People need to be willing to learn, willing and open to grow. So I've kind of attracted that client oftentimes and kind of built it from there. But with Truth Collective, there is a behind the scenes, why is it called that? And I spent a lot of time in the rebrand of making my company from an education company to really all sectors, thinking about what is at the core of what I do. And a lot of that is the truth, like the truth of who you are. And that's what the true self component is. Like, who are you at your core essence? Like, what is the vision that you have for your life, your work, your culture? What are the values that you just really at your core care most about? And then how do you bring out that in your life and your work? And that's where that truth element was. And then there's the culture component of truth, is if we say we're about this as a company, this vision, these values, and it doesn't match what people experience, then we're not in our truth. And so that's really where Truth Collective came from. How can we look at really kind of taking our true selves and building true companies from that place? So that's how that came to be. But yeah, coaching found me, it elevated and moved into Truth Collective, and here we are today.
And so through these 7 years of working with your clients and going through the coaching journey with them, what is it about that you find most rewarding since you started doing this?
I think so often people are coming to me to get clear and confident in their leadership vision and their style and who do I want to be as a leader? Because oftentimes they are new to the role or new to the organization. I think you mentioned like first time C-suite people, people who are taking over a family or legacy business. And they're saying like, do I have what it takes?
Mm-hmm.
I want to shift culture in this way. Like, what does that look like? And so that clarity and confidence piece is a huge component of what that coaching journey looks like and why people come to the work that we're doing. So you can kind of see where we're unraveling some of that true self. Like my definition of leadership is you can read 100 different books and put on a persona of whatever leadership book that you read, but it's always not going to necessarily come across as the most authentic and aligned for you. So if we're looking at how can we be healthy, high performing, sustainable leaders, then we're really thinking about what does that look like to be aligned with my vision and my values personally? What does that look like to be authentic in who I am and how I present and how I lead and what I do and don't do for the
Mm-hmm.
company? And then also thinking about too, like what energy do I bring to my leadership? And really crafting that in a way that is unique to that person and letting them be confident in showing up as that. And I think too, it gives freedom to other people on the team and in their organization to do the same. But it's definitely a risk, like to show up like as your true self. So that's oftentimes is that clarity and confidence piece is a core component of what people came to the work for and continue to come to the work for. Also, there's an element too of truth talk, which is one of our trademarked workshops that we do. But I am interested in how do we create organizations and say like the real thing, the true thing, and what will happen when we do that? Like what breakthroughs can we create because of that? And so in a coaching one-on-one session, it's too like, what's that truth? What's that thing that I may not be always willing to say or I'm scared to say? And like, that's the space for it. And I often find too, once people sort of are in practice of truth talk, it really becomes something that becomes really free for leaders and for teams that practice it.
And when we mentioned that, when we're thinking about the people that you're working with, we did mention that there's the first time C-suite executives, family business successors, high growth startup leaders. But how would you describe this, the ideal client profile? Is it of a certain industry or a certain demographic? Is there some common themes or common goals that they have?
I would say so. Industry agnostic, like work across different industries. I know we'll probably talk about this, but a lot of my business is referral business. So sometimes I can work within a lot of the same industry just because those referrals start to come in. But when I really look at the list of clients, it's all over the map, from, education still, because that's still the heart of what I do. I love working with like schools and networks that are running schools, as well as, family businesses in the construction industry, architecture firms, finance firms, like, you name it, like it is there. But with that being said, again, like that willingness and openness, it's more characteristics that I think need to be true of the person or the organization that is so important to my demographic. And that's that willingness and openness to learn and to grow, because that's what people come for. And that's what I want them to get. And so if, we're looking to just be validated or to go through this process because that CEO down the street did some coaching and I just want to be validated in my way and I want to be validated and told like you're doing the right thing. Sometimes that does happen, by the way. I will tell
Mhm.
people like you're doing a great job. Like let
Yeah.
that go and like let it be. But sometimes there's an edge that we're trying to push through to help people grow. And it's always vision related. Like if you say you want this, then like here's our like growth metric there. With that being said, there is this element of leaders who are again like newer to their role. I like to say 0 to 5 years, but I don't like to pigeonhole anything. You don't have to be. I've worked with everyone, but like maybe you have been promoted into a new position and it's the first time that you're going to be in that position. Or maybe you've been a CEO before, but you're at a new organization. So you're wanting some support in that transition. Love talking about crafting your next move. That's always kind of a fun one too. So there's that transition piece of, I've been promoted and this is a new role and I want that clarity and confidence, or I've gone to a new organization, been here a couple years and I'm seeing there's some culture changes that I want to enact, and I need sort of a safe place to talk through that, strategize around it, and move that through. So that's oftentimes kind of that clientele. And I like the newness of someone's role. I love crafting, helping someone craft their next role.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of people who are in, like, let's say a C-suite role that has never existed at a company before. So it's the first time they're on a team, and it's the first time that role has existed. So getting some clarity around, like, what are the priorities for the role? How's it going to impact the organization? Is that really in their sweet spot? All that kind of stuff. It's really fun for me.
Do you, when it comes to like these leaders working with you, how would you describe the engagement of working with you? Is there a certain program of certain length? How would you describe that engagement? Is it one-on-one? Do you also work with their teams? How does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it can look different ways. Typically, if I'm engaging with a coaching client, I do a 12-month engagement, and that is to just see sort of the lifespan of the business. That's also to see sort of the ebbs and flows of just what life brings people. Many clients actually end up continuing on for a handful of years, which is awesome because we get to see really a lot of growth and support in that time period. One of the fun things that I am doing, kind of fun personal fact, is I have two very young children who I had back to back. And so I was keeping my one-on-one clients just as that, all through that realm of just having children and toddler stage. I always felt like I wanted to bring my coaching clients together
Mm-hmm.
to have conversations, to meet. And so actually in this fall of 2025, we're launching a mastermind where you still get that one-on-one experience and that one-on-one coaching, but we'll also offer group coaching and some mindset, really targeted mindset work. You bring the problem, I'll walk you through some different processes to really up level your emotional intelligence and like what you just really sustaining that leadership energy that you need every day. So that's a fun transition that's been on the table for a long time. It was more my capacity that that timing needed to match up. And I do, one of my favorite engagements though is typically there are times where I will coach one-on-one multiple people across a leadership team. And we will actually do what's called a coaching summit at the end of everyone's engagement. And we'll come and we'll share our vision and our values and kind of talk about like what's next steps. How did the team, like what were some things that we noticed? I will share, like there's confidentiality in coaching that I take really seriously, but I will share insights that I learned from the team at large that will help them move forward as an organization as it relates to leadership, culture, and people development. So that's another engagement that's really fun. I get to learn a lot about the organization, but it's very much individually focused. But yeah, one-on-one engagement, 12 month. I played around with different engagements. That one seems to work the best. Typically also meet on a monthly cadence. I also say that you do have kind of an SOS ability to get in touch with me in between sessions. Like, you know, if you're having a high stakes conversation or if something is, you know, just percolating, like by all means, give me a call. We'll talk about it. You don't have to wait till your next session. So it really is that full support, but also consistent support.
Thank you. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for explaining all of that. That is so interesting. So 12 months, and actually it makes sense because it does take a while for like really meaningful change to happen. And I want to talk a little bit about the goals, but before I get there, when it comes to marketing, is there a specific channel? You mentioned word of mouth and referrals seems to be the bigger one. Is there any other channel?
Well, I have my newsletter. And so as people are on that, I feel like that is a good way that people are up to date on one, like just the value that we bring. And there's always like a lot of ways that we like offer like free tools, reflection questions, all that kind of stuff, but up to date on what we're doing. But LinkedIn and Instagram is what we're on. I would not say that we have spent a lot of time there. It's one of those things because when the business is running, I have to stay really focused on what my sweet spot is, which is facilitation, coaching, just being out in the community, that kind of thing. And so that's like to me right now is, and that's been working. So that is kind of the next step that we're moving towards. And actually, I have invested in some help to actually start to get that more consistent and upgraded because it's not my sweet spot. But yeah, that's where we are. Lots of playing around there, but haven't committed like full on consistently really up until recently.
And you actually did mention that because we're going to talk about the goals, and you want to start a group coaching and a mastermind. And you mentioned that one of the issues that you didn't do this initially was your capacity. So right now, do you have a team structure or something you've figured out to help you out with your time?
That's a great question. So two things. One, I would say the most important, and this goes to like investing in yourself, right? And systems and structures. Really, the number one thing was actually getting that squared away personally. And so the support with my children, support with just health and that kind of thing, and really in my personal life and shoring that up. So my capacity is what I want it to be. And I'm showing up as my best self in both places. So that's number one. I'm not going to ever skip over that, even though this is a professional call, because I think it's important to know, especially like in the United States, like childcare, it's difficult. And so finding something that feels really, really values aligned can take some time. And so we're in a sweet spot with that allows me to really expand my capacity. The second piece, I can't speak highly enough of getting a virtual assistant. I think it is a really, really great way to fast track some of the back end of your business that can take a lot of time, especially if you don't necessarily have it. I used to have a lot of time and I would loved figuring out all the things. I'm just in a different season right now. But assistant have some different other ways that I do like contracted work where I'll bring in people as necessary to just up level the business. But I would say that assistant is probably the most regular piece of that. And then I'm in my own coaching experiences along the way too. So those are some, well, not team members per se. I think there's a lot of value in being in rooms with people who are doing similar work, and that can also fast track the ways that you make choices for your business.
And right now, having the VA, what are some goals you're working towards having more capacity? So we did mention the group coaching and mastermind. So for the next 1 to 3 years, including this, how do you specify the goals that you're working
Yeah.
towards?
So obviously with launching that, I want to fill the room with just amazing aligned leaders that would benefit tremendously from the work that we're offering and the community of leaders that we're bringing to the table. So that's something that is starting, it's sustaining itself. Other goals too are giving like a taste of our work. I call it Circle Foundations. And that's like an easy way to invest in yourself, but also experience what Truth Collective is all about. And those run on an almost monthly cadence. And it's a 4-week experience where you have a once a week 90-minute session. And that is another thing that we kicked off, taking what we had done with teams and organizations and just offering it and saying it's at an accessible price. Like you can come to this. It's 90 minutes. It's virtual. Come as you are. There's also access to, we have, this is for any client that we onboard. We don't sell these separately, but we have like a true self course and different materials that people can access. So in that foundations class, they can go deeper into the work where there's exercises, meditations, all sorts of things to just help people connect with their true self and their vision. But with that, those are some of the goals. It's just like fill that room out, continue the workshops and that we're doing with clients and leadership teams and speaking engagements and that kind of thing, more or less, again, have come pretty organically. Very lucky. I definitely think a goal for me is to talk about it more. And that has been something that's, it seems minor, but again, being a little more consistent on social media, pretty consistent with our newsletter audience, but thinking about just making sure that people know about the work and building that out. Because I think too, it's like, I'm such a believer in it. I like to say a lot of the things that we do was my own like transition from feeling a little bit stuck in life and a career. And these were the tools that moved me out of it and have continued to move clients. And they're tools that I continue to go back to and I utilize. Back to that word foundations. These is the foundation.
These are great goals that you shared. So right now, thinking about investments over the last few years, what have been some good investments that you've made in your coaching business that you feel like very proud of, you feel like you've gotten good return from? And if any, what have been some investments that you would have preferred to have avoided?
Trying to think of, I would say, for me, again, like virtual assistant has been a wonderful investment and probably something I could have done earlier. I also actually really invested big in myself in the sense of my own. I joined a mastermind as well. Um, and went pretty big on like just up leveling my practice with coaching and running a business. And that has
Mm-hmm.
paid off really well. It just energized me, I think, through a season of life that was very full with young babies and children, and then also running a business. It was nice to have that. Again, I go back though to personal systems. I think we overlook that when we talk business, of what do you have in your personal life to expand your capacity in other ways, if that's what you want. So for me, like the investment in having incredible childcare that is consistent, reliable, and just excellent on all the realms has been a huge game changer. And I know that seems maybe not like a business investment, but it is in many ways because it helps you be your best self. And I think if that's something that I'm working towards for clients, then I got to do it for myself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I often find that is true with leaders. Like we struggle to ask for help, like just as human beings. So it's like, where are all these areas around me that can bring in that help and that support? Trying to think of investments that I've made that I wouldn't say I've made huge investments that have like broke the bank or anything. I like to experiment. Like I'm okay. I kind of have my threshold of like, what are some different ways that I can experiment with investing in the business in different ways that don't feel like a risk per
Mm-hmm.
se. Like I can figure out whether it's something I continue or not. So I don't have a massive, I think I could be riskier,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest. And I've had different coaches come in. I like to say like I have a roster of coaches, and all of those facilitators. What's really been interesting about the coaches and facilitators I've brought in, they've all experienced my work as clients, which is kind of interesting. Yeah. So it's like they almost have like they get to experience it and they're trained up in the work, and then they can go and deliver it. But I've kept it small because that feels right now in terms of like big team and scale, which is
Mm-hmm.
probably countercultural.
Yeah.
But for me, that's where I want to be. I'm not looking to be McKinsey or Bain or anything massively huge. I'm looking to do work that I love, that I know is transformational, and for it to feel like unique and boutique for the client.
Interesting. And so,
Hmm.
where do you see the challenge right now? Where do you see that bottleneck for the moment? So to say your
And
capacity was, let's say that is sort of fixed. Might not be 100%, but at least like is better. Where do you see the right now?
you want to know where bottleneck is saying it's chasing revenue versus understanding aligned clients. So it's always being really clear in like what you do, what you don't do, and making sure like saying yes to a client that's not ready for the work is a bottleneck. And not only can it be just an energy drain on both parties, but it just it takes you away from the right clients, the right work. So that's actually where I would say I've learned a lot in my years in business is not saying yes to everything and like really listening like to my gut and being really clear about the work that we are doing and what it takes to show up both as a coach and as a client to get the value that you're coming for. So that's actually something that I think can very fast track bottleneck you, from the growth that you're looking for, or from just like the alignment and the ease of life work, whatever you're looking for as a coach. It's that yes no for clients.
We've seen that on the podcast come up as a topic often where,
Yeah.
yeah, saying no to a client that either doesn't seem like a good fit for both sides could be draining for you and for them when it doesn't work from the start. Yeah, it's just like one of the things that you got to make a decision, even though it's not good for the revenue, it would be good for the coaching business overall, for you to be able to deliver at your best self. So yeah, it is a valid point.
Yeah.
Right now, considering that, is there like for other coaches who are listening, is there any advice you'd give to other coaches who are looking to scale their impact?
Yeah, it was funny. Just as you were talking, I was thinking about one of our frameworks, which I actually have over here, true leadership versus ego leadership. I think that's like what we're talking about there. Like when your ego says like, I need to have X kind of business, I need this type of revenue. And it can get you in those tricky spots often. Because sometimes that vision for that is driven by external, factors. It's not necessarily your internal vision for the work that you're wanting to do. So I think getting really clear on what do you want as a coach? What is at the core of why you do what you do? I love helping people think about things differently. I love expanding perspective. I love having people come to me and leaving with more clarity and confidence on who they are. So understanding what that offer is as a coach, I think is incredibly important. And then understanding too, where is your ego at play versus what is really true and authentic to you? Because I do think the coaching industry is really saturated. And so the more that we can be clear about what role you're playing, what game you're playing as a coach, I think that's really important, because the goal isn't just to have, X dollars of revenue at the expense of really not offering transformational work. You want to make sure that you are doing that. So I think too, some of my early challenges were saying yes to things because I felt the pressure versus saying no. So getting sort of your criteria for clients of what type of clients do I love working with? What clients need this kind of work? And knowing that up front as sort of your kind of screening for whether the client is the right fit.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing all of that. And so thank you so much for coming today. For anyone that wants to connect with you or reach out to you, they can go into LinkedIn and look up Lauren Sikes. They will be able to find you there. They can also go into truthcollectiveco.com, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Truth Collective Co.
Yep, truthcollectiveco.com. We'll also put that into the description. Thank you so much, Lauren. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me on. I love this conversation.
That's it for this episode of Career Coaching Secrets. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're listening to this episode to catch future episodes. This podcast was brought to you by Purple Circle, where we help career coaches scale their business to $100,000 years, $100,000 months, or even $100,000 weeks, all without burning out and making sure that you're making the impact and having the life that you want. To learn more about our community and how we can help you, visit joinpurplecircle.com.